Hello there, Brick Fanatics. So, LEGO Barad-dûr has been on store shelves for coming up on a month now, which means it is about time for LEGO fans everywhere to start scratching their dwarven beards and saying, what's next? We've had one LEGO Lord of the Rings set, yes, but what about second LEGO Lord of the Rings set? And yes, I know this is the second LEGO Lord of the Rings set from the latest generation of these, but you get the joke. For anyone who might be speculating about what may or may not be showing up in the future for LEGO Lord of the Rings, it seems that the designers at the LEGO Group are more than happy to provide a few little Easter eggs, hints and nudges, wink wink. Whether or not you take them completely seriously depends on your personal preference, but it does feel like the LEGO designers are heavily hinting at one set in particular. In LEGO Barad-dûr, in a Palantir orb, we can see two potential scenes of the future. One, a burning Shire, and two, Minas Tirith. Minas Tirith also showed up on a map in the LEGO Rivendell set, alongside the Tower of Orthanc and Barad-dûr, both of which have already now had LEGO sets. Based on these clues, it does seem like the LEGO Group might just be heading to Gondor for the next big LEGO Lord of the Rings set. I mean, they could also head to the Shire and set it on fire, but based on comments that we've had from LEGO designers, it does seem as if whatever they do next, it's going to be something that's distinct and completely different from what's come before. Apparently, the LEGO designers who chose Barad-dûr did so because they wanted something that was completely distinct in terms of colour and in terms of style and in terms of story from Rivendell. They wanted something that was completely removed so it didn't in any way kind of copy or mirror things that had already been given the LEGO treatment very recently. Rather than just paraphrasing, here's Antitsa making the comment herself.
We had a list of things that we would like to do, but we were also considering different factors, like what makes sense to follow Rivendell, because you see one beginning of the journey and a nice, colorful, bright space with certain characters, and then we said it would be nice to actually have a contrast to that. Yeah. So new characters, completely different setting, different colors, darker, so it made sense in so many different ways to actually go with this one.
If you want to see more from that interview, there is a link in the description down below. This desire to have something that's wildly different from everything else does make sense when we're talking about models that are on this particular scale. Large, expansive sets that the LEGO Group are not necessarily going to want to repeat themselves too often when building. If you're going to build a £400 LEGO Lord of the Rings set, you're going to want it to be distinct and different enough that fans aren't necessarily going to be thinking, it's just repeating what I've already got. Instead, Minas Tirith works as another very large, very expansive, meaty build for LEGO fans to sink their teeth into, because meat is back on the menu, boys. Minas Tirith has a distinct architecture and colour scheme to Rivendell and to Barad-dûr, and crucially it has a bunch of different characters that we've not had before. So with Rivendell we had the entire Fellowship, we were rather spoiled as well with a bunch of other little elven characters which were very nice. With Barad-dûr we got Frodo and Sam and Gollum, and then we got a bunch of different orcs, and of course Sauron himself. With Minas Tirith there is the opportunity for characters like Faramir and for Denethor, and Denethor's tomato, which is, you bet that's going to be in that set, absolutely. And of course, who could possibly forget the Fellowship contingency themselves, Gandalf the White along with Shadowfax and Pippin Took, who would be a perfect inclusion in this set. Slightly different printing and colour scheme perhaps to what we got in the Rivendell set, definitely for Gandalf because that's just how Gandalf works, but certainly also maybe something new for Pippin would be nice. Basically, if the LEGO Group were looking to complete the trilogy, so to speak, with a third large Lord of the Rings set that matches the first two, then Minas Tirith is an excellent choice of venue. This, though, might not necessarily be what all LEGO fans want, because if there's one big criticism of the LEGO Lord of the Rings latest incarnation, it's that the sets are, if anything, a bit too big, a bit too detailed, a bit too, well, expensive. In preparation for this video, I went back and looked at some of the interviews that we've done with LEGO designers for Rivendell and for Barad-dûr, and I've got to say, the way that they talk about the minifigures in this set, I mean, it might just be that Ashwin Visser was in both of our interviews, who is the guy who was really working heavily on these minifigures, but his enthusiasm comes across, and you can see just how much effort and love and attention to detail went into making these minifigures and crafting new elements and just new gear all around for these minifigures, which are really, really impressive and are locked into very large sets that the vast majority of LEGO fans are never going to feel comfortable purchasing. Minas Tirith would be an absolutely amazing, incredible LEGO set, but it's also going to be potentially very expensive yet again, and that means that a lot of people that still really want to get their hands on some LEGO Lord of the Rings stuff are still going to be priced out of the market. Long gone are the days of a golem in a polybag or a little hobbit set or what have you that just fills a little niche for somebody who just wants to get their hands on some minifigures. It's essentially the same thing that I complained about with Legend of Zelda Lego, where when you've got these large giant sets that some people really only want for the minifigures, it just feels very uncomfortable. The difference with the Lego Lord of the Rings sets is that in addition to having some really cool minifigures, the past two at least have been really cool builds in their own right, really wonderful, magnificent buildings that do justice to the source material in a way that, at least from what I've been hearing, a lot of people don't feel that the Deku Tree does for The Legend of Zelda. So the good news then is that certainly for anybody who's picked up Rivendell or Barad-dûr, it feels like the set is worth its price tag, and it certainly does justice to the films or the books if you want to kind of stretch your imagination a little bit by doing such a great job of crafting sets that really match up with the source material. And if you're going for something else on that scale, then Minas Tirith is going to do it. And certainly these minifigures will probably be very cool if we do end up getting a set based on that particular landmark. But you can also imagine the set itself being an engineering marvel in its own right. Even so, a lot of people would love to be able to get their hands on some LEGO Lord of the Rings sets that don't break the bank, that aren't more expensive than buying a new computer. And unfortunately, thus far, this side of the market has not been served. This is where something like a bag-end LEGO set might come in handy, something that can feature the same level of detail and at the same scale as the previous two large Lord of the Rings sets, but with a price tag that's not necessarily going to break the bank, that's going to be somewhat more affordable for the Lord of the Rings fans that want a little bit of LEGO in their life but don't want to have to remortgage their house in order to purchase it. At the same time, I feel like the LEGO Group has decided on this particular form factor for a very good reason. Now, when we spoke with the designers of Rivendell, they said that the decision to make this set had come from the top, that they had been told, all right, you've been pestering us for years and years, here you can finally do it, go and build us a LEGO set based on Lord of the Rings. Here is the actual quote from Mike Psyche where he explains this in more detail.
In all those years, we've been proposing very many times, could we do Lord of the Rings as a new theme? We have creative boosts where we get to kind of pitch any ideas that we want to have, and this is something that we've been talking about for 10 years to do. So I can't say exactly why specifically now was the exact right time to do it. I can just say that I was very excited to get to be involved and get to be a part of it and see this thing that we've been pushing for so long finally come to fruition. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know the reason why, but if you do, you probably should have tried.
No. It's just a matter of the Lego Group says build this and you're like, yes, definitely, that's cool.
Well, it's not so much like that. It's more like we've been saying for years and years, hey, we're going to build this. And then eventually someone says, oh, yeah, we want that. So I think that's a better...
Sometimes ideas stay as ideas, and sometimes they get the green light to go and make it a product, and so that's always exciting when it happens.
That's in contrast to, say, something like the Ornithopter from Dune, which was very much a designer-led thing where they started working on this just because they thought that the film Dune was really cool, and they wanted to make something from that, and then the higher-up said, yeah, sure, you can do it. So with Lord of the Rings, for a while, the designers had been pushing for LEGO Lord of the Rings, and they'd been getting the feedback, it's not the right time, it's not the right time, and then suddenly it was the right time, and it ended up being this big giant set. And so I feel like the decision to make LEGO Lord of the Rings at this scale and this price point has been made very deliberately, and I suspect that the idea behind that is that the higher-ups at LEGO are aware that the Lord of the Rings is not the potent brand that it was a decade to 2 decades ago, and so they're just taking the cream of the crop in sales and maximizing profits on one set a year so that they don't necessarily have to worry about sets flopping because the Rings of Power hasn't turned out to really engage fans in the same way as previous Lord of the Rings efforts. Now, even as I say that LEGO fans would like something smaller and that Minas Tirith would be another really big, meaty, satisfying build for fans who just want the biggest, largest LEGO sets possible, at the same time, compared with the source material, it's very easy that a Minas Tirith set could end up feeling, if anything, too small. When you look at the way that Peter Jackson and his team adapted J.R.R. Tolkien's books for the big screen, you see that the world of Middle-earth is blown up to enormous epic proportions, that these statues and buildings and towers and cities are all so much more massive than anything that we can comprehend. I mean, look at the actual height, real world height of Barad-dûr and compare it with the Burj Khalifa, and you can see that even the tallest of man-made structures in the real world right now are dwarfed, very appropriate word, by the Lord of the Rings equivalents. One criticism that has been floating around the LEGO community with regards to Barad-dûr is that this is supposed to be the biggest of the big, and it's just, well, it's kinda big. It's that Simpsons meme, it's kinda big. Like, it's not massive, it's not bigger than the Lego Eiffel Tower, it's a decent size. And indeed, the fact that the set is built so that it's modular and you can add another set on top of the first set in order to make it really, really big suggests that the Lego designers as well realise that it's fine in terms of what it is, but it could be so much more massive in order to really convey the scale of the actual Lord of the Rings building. Minas Tirith, similarly, is an absolutely massive city. It is big, it is sprawling, it is dense, it is filled with interesting detail, and at the same time it takes a while to get around it. In preparation for making this video, I watched that scene from Return of the King where Gandalf and Shadowfax ride all the way up Minas Tirith, all the way through all of the streets and up staircases and round corners and up staircases and round corners and up staircases and round corners, and within the context of a very long film it feels completely normal because you're letting a lot of it just wash over you, but when you take that 1 minute and just put it in a YouTube video by itself, it does start feeling like someone's edited it deliberately to kind of loop for a while so that you're just going up and up and up and up and up and up. The question then becomes, how do you actually go about translating that really enormous sense of scale into a Lego set? Because even with the kinds of piece counts that we've had from the previous 2 Lego Lord of the Rings sets, there's just not enough material in the box to make something that really does that scale and that sense of grandeur justice. Now, with Rivendell and with Barad-dûr, the approach has been to kind of hint at the larger world, to show a snippet of Barad-dûr rather than the full enormous majesty of the thing, to show 1 or 2 main buildings with Rivendell rather than the slightly more sprawling and slightly more detailed kind of little city in which the elven people live. Presumably the LEGO designers would take a similar approach with Minas Tirith, but the problem is that the shape of the entire city is so integral to its visual aesthetic, with that enormous large spiral leading up to that really tall cliff edge, which is just perfect for running and jumping off if you happen to be on fire. The challenge would be, how do you go about shrinking Minas Tirith to a size that would work for this kind of Lego set so that it doesn't just feel like a couple of tiny small vignettes and actually has the sense of a real full city? Certainly I imagine that the entire thing would be sliced in half, and so you only build one side of the thing, that 180 spin, and then you turn it around on the inside you've got some little scenes from the film. But even doing that, I feel like it would be very easy for this to end up just feeling like a really small wedding cake, although admittedly probably slightly cheaper than an actual wedding cake of the same size. This, though, as mentioned, has been a problem for both of the other 2 LEGO Lord of the Rings sets as well, and the amount to which it bothers you that these things are not larger and more expansive will depend on your personal attachment to the source material. Certainly, if you're after a big, expensive LEGO set that does Lord of the Rings and does it at a scale that we've previously never had, then both of these existing sets have done that very well. And it's only if you're really attached to the source material and want something that really sprawls that you might consider buying 2 or 3 of these and combining them in order to make something genuinely massive. And this, I kind of feel, ends up being the issue with LEGO Lord of the Rings at this moment in time, and the real challenge that the LEGO designers have to face. Some people want smaller sets so that they're affordable, so that they're cheap, and so that they can just kind of get a little bit of Lord of the Rings without having to go massive. And some people want way bigger than is actually possible with a retail set and want to make their own enormous, gigantic mocks that sprawl across tables and wow fans at conventions. Some people, of course, are very happy with Rivendell exactly as it is and Barad-dûr exactly as it is, and those people are going to continue to be served by the LEGO Group, I think, for quite some time. I would really be surprised if the LEGO Group suddenly pulled the rug out from underneath these particular fans. If things do continue as they are, and Minas Tirith does indeed end up being the next big Lord of the Rings set, then certainly these are the challenges that the LEGO designers face. How to please everybody, how to take something really sprawling and turn it into a LEGO set. But that is their job, and thus far they have proven fairly adept at it. So if this set does indeed exist, and if we end up seeing it sometime next year, presumably following the same kind of schedule, it is just worth bearing in mind that these are the challenges that the LEGO designers are facing. And so when people inevitably grumble, oh, this set is too big, or oh, this set is too small, we'll know that they really tried their best to please everybody, but that just wasn't going to be possible, because if there is one thing we know about fandoms, it is no fandom is ever happy all of the time. And that then is that. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Make sure that you do all of the regular YouTube things, thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification bell, etc, etc. Make sure that you sign up to our newsletter and go to brickfanatics.com for more LEGO coverage. Make sure that you use the QR code, which is currently on screen, and the affiliate link, which is down in the description, if you happen to be making a lego.com purchase in the near future. Thank you very much for watching.
Can I say it?
What?
Like and subscribe.